This is the inside of the Auto-Sleeper Fairford MQ. If I firstly come to the main control panel just here and we just tap it, you'll see that we can turn the 12 volt on and off just here. So 12 volt off, 12 volt on. Along the top here we have the external temperature. You might have just seen it just disappeared though. A little picture of a sun. That will appear every time the solar panel is active. We then have a little lightning strike letting us know we're hooked up to main supply at the moment. We then have the humidity and the internal temperature, time, and then the date along the bottom. Beneath 12 volt on and off, we then have water pump on and off. We need the water pump on to be able to get water out of the taps, flush the toilet, and fill the boiler if it's been drained down. This next one will let us know how much water is in the fresh tank and how much water is in the waste tank. And then beneath that we then have condition of leisure battery and vehicle battery, the active battery current, the mains current, if obviously you're hooked up to the main supply, and then the solar current whenever the solar panel is active. This side here we then have cabin lights on and off. These can then all be individually turned on and off, basically on their own switches. We then have awning light on and off. This will also do the little entrance light just here. Battery selection just here, so V for vehicle, L for leisure, whichever one is highlighted on here is the battery that is being used to power the motorhome. When you're hooked up to the main supply, whichever battery is selected on here is also the one that's being charged. If I now press the cog, we will then go into the settings menu. So you'll see here that we have the power settings, and you'll see that we're actually set on smart charge at the moment. So currently the main supply is charging the leisure battery and the solar panel is charging the vehicle. After about, I believe it's about 3 hours, they will then swap over and then the main supply will charge the vehicle battery and the solar panel will charge the leisure. If we then come across to this side, we have automatic tank fill. So this is for the whale filler on the outside. This needs to be on to make the solenoid live to allow water into the freshwater tank. If this is not turned on, you'll turn the tap on and no water will actually enter into the van. And then we then have tank heaters on and off just here. These will come on if the temperature outside drops below about 3-4 degrees. We then have lights that come on when we turn the power on. At the moment they're all off. You can have it so when you turn the power on, the main lights come on or the awning light comes on, etc. We then have key beeps on and off, water level alarms for the fresh and the waste tank on and off, set the backlight brightness of this screen, and then how quickly it times out when we're not actually using it. We then have set the time and the date, and then we're back to the beginning again. Beside this main control panel we then have the controls for the whale heating and hot water system. You'll see that we have water heater here and heating. So if I start with the water heater, you'll see as I press we'll go over a series of icons until it eventually ends back up at off. So if we start with the first icon just here, this is frost protection mode. So if you've got water in the boiler but you don't necessarily want to be heating it up, you can put it onto this one just here, and then if the temperature outside drops below 3-4 degrees, it will just come on to avoid any frost damage. We then have a single wavy line. Wavy lines represents mains electricity. So I round it up and I class this as 1 kilowatt. And then we have 2 wavy lines, so near enough about 2 kilowatts. So just dependent on the amperage of the site you're on to try and avoid tripping. We then have gas, so if we're not hooked up we can heat our hot water on the gas supply. And if we have both power sources available to us, we can actually run in dual fuel, so on a mixture of gas and mains at 1 kilowatt or gas and mains at 2 kilowatts. This is very handy, especially in the winter months, or if you just want to have hot water extremely quickly. Whenever the unit is consuming gas, you will get a little flame just appear where my finger is here. If we now drop to the lower one, we then have heating, and you'll see virtually the same again, icons until we end up back at off. One wavy line, this time still main supply, but about 500 watts. We then have 2 wavy lines, so about 1 kilowatt, and 3 wavy lines, which is about 2 kilowatts. Gas on its own again, and then we have dual fuel. We control the temperature on the plus and the minus. Well, recommend dropping all the way down to the moon for night mode. It's a low heat, but secondly the fan is nice and quiet. And same again, whenever it's consuming gas, you will get a little gas flame. If there's a problem with the unit in any shape or form, you will get a red exclamation mark appear, either here if it's the water heater or here if it's the heating. If you get one of them, to find out what the problem is, just literally hold the button in and then you'll get a series of little red lights, and then within the manual, if you Google it, it will tell you what the problem is. If it's something relatively easy that you can fix, you will then need to reset the control panel. So if it's a water heater issue, just hold the water heater button in and then press the plus. Or if it's a heating problem, hold the heater button in and then press the plus. As you can now see, the little flames appeared for the water heater, letting us know that that is now lit, and probably in a few seconds time the heating will then fire itself up. There we go. If we now just remove the cushions from the travelling seats, you will now see that I can lift this section up, and underneath here we have the leisure battery. We also have the main 12-volt fuse just there. We also have tucked at the back there the solenoid that allows the water into the van from the whale filler hose. We also have some 12-volt fuses just here. They are all labelled up and are for stuff more on the outside of the motorhome, like marker lights, etc. If I now just place this back down again, and we then just open the flap just here, you'll see we have the consumer unit itself just here. So we have the trip switches just here. So we have the 3 individual MCBs, main RCD and test button just here. And then over this side here we have the 12-volt fuses. Again, they are all numbered up, and both the trips and the 12-volt fuses are in the Auto-Sleeper handbook. We then have isolator switches just here for components that use main supply. So the amber one is for the heating and the hot water system. So if I turned this off here and I was trying to run the heating or the hot water on main supply, we would get the red exclamation marks appear because we've isolated it here. The green one is for the battery charger. Again, if I turned that off, I then wouldn't be able to charge the leisure battery or vehicle battery from the mains. This one will illuminate if we have reverse polarity connected to the van. This can sometimes be found on some continental sites. We then have full system shutdown just here, so if we're not using the van for a fairly lengthy period of time, we can then press this and it would then kill any residual draw on the leisure battery. Under this side here, we literally just have storage. Sink just here. And then we we have storage here with the cutlery drawer. More storage here, which can be got to from both sides. As we move along, we will come to the Fairford fridge, on and off just here. If I now hold this button in just here, we can then select what power source we want to use. This is an automatic model, so this is the easiest setting to have it on. So if we now put it onto A for auto, press this button and then pick the temperature that we would like it to be and press again. Because we're now on A for auto, it will find the best power source it can for us. So because we're currently hooked up to main supply, it's now put us onto mains with a little picture of the 2-pin plug. If I was to now go outside and pull the mains lead out, it would then automatically attempt to fire itself up onto gas. And as soon as we start the engine, it will then automatically put us onto 12 volt maintain to keep the fridge cold whilst on the move. As you can see, the screen will go dark. Just tap and to bring it back up to see what it's doing. You will always get the blue light just here to let you know that it is actually on. If I want to manually select anything, again just hold the button in and then just use the arrows. So we could manually put it onto mains, manually put it onto 12 volt maintain, or manually put it onto gas. If I just quickly put it onto 12 volt maintain for a moment, you'll see what this actually does when it errors. So you'll see we've got a little red flashing light and it's flashing over here. It's just letting us know that it hasn't got 12 volt at the moment because the engine's not running. But automatic is definitely the easiest one to have it on. We then have the fridge and the freezer box above. Extractor fan just here, so we have 2 fan speeds, and then we have lights, and again 2 level of lights as well. Above that we then have the microwave. The isolator switch for it is just there. This will work when we're hooked up to main supply. These newer microwaves do not require a plate. And then we have the usual sort of stuff. We have start, stop just here. And then we have power settings, etc., cook, defrost. We have 3 gas rings. Let's just push, twist and press the igniter. And beneath that we then have the oven and the grill. So push in to the left for the oven. And then push in to the right for the grill. Storage beneath. You will also find some of the gas isolation taps of the van just here. So we have cooker, fridge, heating. They're all in the on position, and quite frankly they can stay like that. I always say if you did smell gas in the van, go underneath and actually isolate it at the gas tank. We have the Truma air conditioning unit just here. The remote control looks like this. So we have on and off on the big blue button just here. You'll see we have mode, so just press this. So we have auto, we have air recirculation, and then we have ice cold. Temperature control just here. And then beside we have band speed. If we slide this part down, we also have the ability to set timers, etc. as well. It also has lights and a night mode as well. And then blue button to turn it back off again. Shower just here. All of these lights in the roof are all just touch. So we have the basin, slides out of the way. The toilet. So to open to the cassette, just slide across. We then have push to flush just here. And then close back up to the cassette again. If this has been left open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. So if you do feel resistance, just make sure nobody's left it open. The shower head also acts as the tap. So there, and then if for the shower, you can then locate up here. There is an extractor in here. And this switch here just turns it on and off. If we now just remove these rear cushions, as you can now see, we have the table just there. We also have storage underneath here, and you can see the boiler itself just here. To drain the boiler down for winterization, we just remove the cap just here, and you can see the little yellow drain lever. So make sure the water pump is turned off, and then just flap this to the side like so, and it will then drop all the water out. If I now close it back up again, to refill it, all we need to do is fill up the fresh water tank, turn the water pump on, and it will then begin priming the system back up again. If the system has been drained down for winter, I always suggest that you open up all of the taps in the motorhome as well. So when it comes to filling it back up again, you will need to open your taps to allow the air to be forced out. So they'll cough and splutter as they force the air. Once they're running on hot and cold, close them, and then the system will then fully reprime itself. Underneath the other bench seat, we just have storage, and again, tucked behind the cushions, we have the other tabletop. To make the rear bed, it's extremely easy. All we need to do is just slide these parts out like so, and then just drop the cushions into the gap. The digital amplifier for the television aerial is just located here, on and off just here, and then control the gain just on the black dial here. In this overhead locker, you will find the Huawei mobile Wi-Fi. So on and off just here, you will need to pop the SIM card in first. Once you pop the SIM card in, turn it on, and then search for it on your Wi-Fi on either your tablet or smartphone. Once you've done this, you'll be able to then connect up to it and then pay the subscription. To make this front bed, we firstly need to remove the table and then fold the leg. So as you can see, I've now removed the table, and I've folded the leg like this. It folds just by pressing the button just here. You can completely fold it as well for stowing as well. Once we've done that, we need to fold this section just here so it drops like this, and then what we're doing is we're then placing the table in this section just here. As you can now see, I've dropped the table into position. Then if you just slightly fold this back up again, you will see that you just have these little bits here that just clip in to these parts here. This just stops the table being able to slide about. So I've now just attached both of them, and then we'll just drop it back down again. This section here just needs to slide out, and so does this one as well. And then we can then start adding the cushions. So you'll see this section just here needs this long infill just here dropped in, and then once it's dropped in we can then pop it into position. So it's then dropped in like this. If I then grab the next piece, which is this long section just here, you'll see that it has this cutout bit just here. This just goes across the back just here. This just stops you from rolling in and banging into any of the plug sockets, etc. Then we just need to pop the infills in just here. And now you can see I've popped in the other 3 infills, and then we have an extremely large double bed.